there's a door, apparently.
No. There we go. There we go. All right, so a couple of things we want to go over today. 2011 has been a year of results for us, and we want to talk to you about what we've been doing, working with this new product, trying to leverage our experience internally to help our customers externally. So we want to spend a little time talking to you about what we've accomplished in the last 9 months and what we're going to be accomplishing through the end of the year. We also want to highlight a few of our customers who have been some power users of results that we've seen actually grab a hold of the concept and really put a lot of effort into it and have a lot of really great success with some reports that they're using at their agencies. So we have about 5 customers that we're going to spend some time looking at reports that they've done today. They range in level of difficulty, and we're going to walk you through them. We'll have time for questions on things like that. And then we're going to conclude today talking a little bit about what we'd like to do with results in the coming year, giving you an idea of what you could expect coming down the pipe. We are going to try to hold about 10-15 minutes for questions at the end, just general questions about results. We do anticipate that we might have a bit of a time crunch, so in that vein, there's little pieces of paper scattered amongst the tables. If you want to note down questions, that'd be great. If we happen to not be able to get to all of them in the time that we have allotted, Jamie and I are very much committed to collecting them and getting in touch with you all to answer those questions afterwards, just in case we don't have enough time. Okay. All right, I just want to do a quick poll. I know we have a range of customers here in terms of your experience with ETO results. So please raise your hand if you currently use ETO results in any capacity. Okay, about half the room. Raise your hand if you've been using results for more than a year. Bit smaller. Jill's not sure. Bit smaller, okay. Raise your hand if you have at least one report that your agency uses on a regular basis that is based in results. All right, that's a pretty good number. And raise your hand if you have heard of ETO results, but you're not really sure what it is, but you're here and excited to find out more about it. Good, good. Okay, so we do know we have a bit of a range here. We're going to try to touch on topics that speak to the range of users that we have. So if you're hearing something for the umpteenth time, forgive me. There are people here that are new and experiencing this for the first time. All right, so as I said, 2011 was a year of results for us. We really took results as a major initiative for our company and tried to employ a lot of focus and attention on it as we were going through. A couple of highlights of some things that we did. First, we created an ETO results cross-functional team. This is a team that's led by myself in product management, but has a representative from every single team at Social Solutions: sales, customer support, account management. It's essentially our way of getting everybody together on the same team, all headed towards the same set of goals that were related to results, and we'll talk about here in a little bit. This team meets once a week to keep track of where we're at with our current projects and to figure out what we need to be doing to really leverage this product internally and externally. First goal of this team was actually to start a major initiative to condense and simplify our standard reporting in the software. I'm going to talk a little bit more in detail about this in just a minute, but essentially we were trying to start converting all of our current Crystal reports into ETO results reports. And I'll explain a little bit why, in a little bit why that should make everybody extremely excited. We also had some initiatives through the team about increasing usage and satisfaction. We relied very heavily on some of our first pilot users to talk to us about what was working, what wasn't working. This is going to be a continual, ongoing process, so if you're not in results now and you get in, we are very open to hearing feedback and trying to respond to it. We also started using our online community a little more proactively, having actually internal staff, myself and Jaime, some developers, Dave, all posting blogs to more proactively talk to our customers about results, encouraging them to write down questions and talk to one another. Became a form of some open discussion. And then last but certainly not least, as you heard Steve talk about a little bit during lunch, we launched ETO visual analytics and correlation reports. We're not going to talk about ETO analytics in this session today. As he said, this is something we're gearing up for, creating documentation and training and the like, but this is a more recent initiative for us. Any questions on any of this? Go ahead. Oh, yes. Are there any handouts? So I actually am going to provide on our website a copy of this slide deck when you all are done, because I have some lists that might be helpful to a lot of people that are embedded in this. So I don't have them right now, but they will be available after the conference. So for those of you that may be newer to results, I want to take a minute to talk about why it's actually an extremely exciting product for us, a little more transparency about why we're devoting the time and resources to results that we are. Many of you, when you first experienced ETO, were probably a little alarmed by the number of standard reports we have. There are a lot of them, and you're not always sure what they do, and you spend a lot of time clicking on things and running them and trying to figure out what you do and do not like about what is there. So the first goal of moving to results was to take that very large number and get it to something that was a little more approachable, something that was consolidated and made sense to the users that were trying to actually run reports. Even better on top of this is that one of the main advantages of results is that you can actually customize the reports. In Crystal, what you get is what you get. You're stuck with whatever is there. We'd had customers then have to come to us and say, we want X, Y, and Z done, and then we'd have to do enhancements. There's cost involved with that. It became a very arduous way of getting to what was often a very simple reporting need. Now with results, we really are putting the power on reporting in the hands of our customers. Yes, we still have a set of standard reports. We're actually going to talk about some of those new ones today. But we also give you the ability to write your own custom reports or to take a standard report that we created and make it your own. Do all sorts of customizations to it. In addition to that, there are a couple of other special details coming up there. If you like the query wizard right now, easy way to start to ease yourself into results is you can take a currently existing query wizard query and convert it into a universe that you actually use in results. You're working with a data set that you know and are familiar with, but then you have the ability to manipulate it, create graphs and charts, do formulas, all these sorts of things you would normally export into Excel to have that accomplished. You can import data into Microsoft Office products. So you're able to put a pie chart and update the information in that pie chart into a PowerPoint presentation, something like this. You also can export in a lot more formats than what Crystal Reports provided us a lot of the time. Ability to put reports on dashboards. Hopefully everybody's familiar with dashboards and starting to explore those. Those are a little bit newer for us as well. You can actually place a report on your dashboard and have it refresh every time you hit your dashboard. Big thing for our customers is that now customer support is much more knowledgeable about where these reports came from, how they're built, what the formulas are. They all have the ability to go in and open up these reports and look at them in order to be able to actually speak to our customers much more specifically about how they're getting the data that they're getting. With Crystal, a lot of it was, oh, this report has been here for a while, or it pulls this, and now we can actually be much more detailed about what these reports actually contain, including documentation down to the element level. Jaime right now is slogging her way through all the new standard reports that we're starting to talk about. And this also allows us to resolve bugs faster, since there are many more people who are actually able to change reports and work with reports than just our development team. Any questions on any of these things? No? Okay. All right, so like I said, we had a major initiative with the ETO Results cross-functional team to start converting our standard reports into ETO Results standard reports. Major reason behind this is probably something you all could have come up with on your own, depending on how long you've been using software, ETO software. We've gotten consistent feedback that when you hit reports, it's just very overwhelming. There's a lot of them. You don't know what they're doing. They're not customizable, and you get really stuck from a data perspective. We also have a lot of legacy bugs that are hanging around in our Crystal reports. So this was an opportunity to see those and give you a more condensed, focused set of reports that then you can manipulate as you would like. So to get you all excited about this a little bit, we're actually going to show you a couple of the standard reports. Jaime's actually going to walk us through them. I'll let you start on that while I open one for you. I'm sorry, I forgot I had this slide. I'll be providing this deck, so don't worry about scribbling furiously here, but with the release that's coming out in this fall, about 2 weeks from now, we're going to be releasing 11 revised reports. These were reports that were already out in results, but we had a lot of customer feedback around it's not working quite the way we want, or have you thought about adding X, Y, and Z to this? So those reports all went through sort of a facelift to make them much more flexible, much more what our customers are looking for. Then we have about 8 reports that are coming out that are brand new. And all of the requirements for these reports went through the results team. So we're getting a view from all different customers' perspectives about what should be in these reports. Our PAB that you heard Steve speak about at lunch as well also got a chance to look at a lot of these reports and give some feedback. Had we thought about various scenarios and really speaking for our clients in that way. Go ahead, Jim. I'll open it up for you.
Okay, so the first report we're going to look at is the Participant Notes and Efforts report. And this report, once we're going to look at some PDF versions of it. But basically, there is a version available for participants, entities, and general efforts. So the one that we are looking at here is for participants. And I apologize, the room is kind of large, but so I'm going to just be over here. So you have it broken out by participant, and then you have their total number of efforts, the total time spent, and then you get a site summary and a program summary. So the report is sectioned by program, and then within that, it's sectioned by each point of service. So you get a high-level view for each participant along the top, and then a detailed breakout of all of the efforts that have been recorded. And you can also, there are multiple tabs in the report. So there's a breakout by families and by groups also. So that would appear on a different tab along the bottom of the report. And then the same report is available for entities or general efforts. And so if it's entity, it's sectioned by entity. If it's a general effort, it's going to just be sectioned by the program that the point of service is for.
Couple of notes in addition to that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut off. I think I might have heard a question starting there. You can also see that we took this time to come up with a new sort of revised look for our reports in terms of a unified color scheme and logos and things like that. One of the very easy edits that all of you can do to any of these standard reports is modify that to include your organization's logo or your organization's color scheme if you were so inclined. So just want to point that out as well. You want to go to the next one, Jaime? Sure.
So that is a revised standard report or a currently available standard report?
This is actually one of the new ones that is coming out. And there's actually a total of 6 reports when you look at it. There are 2 that are participant with and without effort qualifiers, 2 that are entity, same deal, 2 that are general. And like Jaime said, each of them has 2 tabs, one that sections by the point of service, and actually based on feedback from our PAB, one that sections by date of contact. So instead of seeing all the efforts for the same point of service together, you see them by date. So depending on what your organization might be interested in looking at. Yes?
Can you also see, it reminds me a lot of the review efforts. So can you see like money spent or assets or anything like that with it?
Not at this time. That's actually one of the reports that we're hoping to bring out in the beginning of next year. But at this time, this is just for points of service.
That's actually also an easy edit that you could do if, because we talked a little bit about this during the break, Melissa. Not as many of our customers are currently using assets or funds, but you can include that into the query and then just drag those elements into the report, and it would modify the report for you.
So we'll talk a little bit about trainings that are out there for results in just a little bit, but it's a quick save as, and then the report is yours. You may do to it whatever you would like. Add in things, take out things, change formulas. We're actually going to go through some very easy edits, just some examples of some things you could do, but that's exactly something you could do. Other questions on this one? No? Okay. Give me a second to switch here. There you go, Jaime. Oh gosh. Sorry, everyone.
Okay, so this report, as you can see, is called Assessment, Weight, and Measures by Program. And this one is a currently existing results standard report, but it's one of the ones that we've revised. So this is the newer look than the one that's currently available in the software. But it'll switch out in a few weeks after our release. And as long as you guys are on the newsletter list, you'll know when the release is coming. But this is a report that works with assessments that have weighted elements in them. So if you've assigned a weight or if you have yes/no questions in there, and it's broken out by program that the assessment was recorded in, the name of the assessment, and then each weighted question that's in there. And you have each response for each participant. If they've taken it multiple times, you have each incident that has been recorded for them. So you have the date taken, the answer for that question, and then the weight associated with that answer. And then over on the far side, it'll tell you if there's been an increase or decrease or no change at all. So this just highlights whether or not there's been a change here based on the weight. And then you have the top answers and the bottom answers that have been recorded for all of the participants.
Also, let me scroll down for you, Jamie.
Okay.
Oh, too far.
And then based on all of the data, you have the question here and the answers that are available and the weight associated with it. And then across the dates that are included in the report, you have a graph that shows how it's changed. And this is based on an average across all participants.
And this particular report also comes in what we call an individual version, so I could run it for one person and see their change across any time period that I would like. This particular one is sectioned by program. Be easy edit to instead do it by site or by a program group, something that might be more in line with what your particular organization is interested in looking at. Are there questions on this report? No? Okay. We have one last one that we're going to show you guys for today.
Okay, so this report's called the Outbound Referrals report, and this one is a new report that we're releasing in a few weeks. And this will tell you the number of referrals that have been made in your program during the date range. So you get a total number, and then you get it broken out by type, and then of all the referrals that have been made, the percent. The number of referrals is actually a hyperlink. So you click on the number of referrals, and it launches an additional report right here with all of your detailed information about who the referrals were made for, where the referrals were made, and if there's been a status, what the status is and the date that it was selected, and then also the reason for referral that was put in there. Okay.
So this particular report came out of some feedback from not only our customers but also our PAB that a weaker area that we have in terms of reporting is our referrals reports. And so this was a launch into trying to give more detailed information in an area that customers are often using the query wizard or even worse, looking at records and trying to count. And so that's why this particular report came about. Questions, thoughts on this? No? Let me find my, here we go. So I'm actually going to go back to just let everybody take another quick peek at this list. Obviously, our time is a little more limited today, so we couldn't open every single report and go through them. These all will be available in about 2 weeks. I cannot encourage everybody enough to go in and look at them, look around. We're actually going to be linking the documentation for the reports inside the report. So you can click on it and launch it in a separate window so you can have the report and the documentation on it side by side and be able to see to the exact element level how the information is being pulled into the report. So it is a little bit of investigation that we're asking our customers to go into. For anybody who's hooked up with professional services still, you can request help there or account management. Customer support is always available for questions on these as well. We are not quite done with this conversion process either, which I'll talk about a little bit more later. Yes?
Is there a plan to do that? So let me just start by saying documentation along with the report is so stellar, and thank you so much. Is there any plan to back document some of the other stuff so we can know where those calculations came from?
Back document some of the other stuff, meaning? You mean the crystal reports?
No, the ETO results.
So actually all the ones that are in this revised list are all the ones that currently exist, so they will be getting that new documentation, yes.
We do have the revised reports. We do have basic documentation for them that's in the help manual, that was completed when we released them like a year or so ago. And it is it's more detailed than the documentation that we have for the older Crystal reports. But I am going through that right now as well, in addition to, I'm giving them the same treatment that I'm doing to the new reports.
Other questions? Yes.
Just a quick question on the what's it called? Participant efforts, notes, and effort qualifiers.
Sure.
If you have several effort qualifiers, is it kind of? I mean, I'm sure you can pull it in by editing it anyway. There's multiple.
I can actually show you. I didn't show both versions, but here, I can show you what that would look like. Hang on. Let's find someone who's got, oh, figures. This doesn't have a great effort. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Let me pull this over for you. So the EQ version looks pretty similar, little different. What the biggest difference are those yellow areas, which are actually your effort qualifiers. And it will show you multiple. It's going to show you the name and then also the value. So as many effort qualifiers as you have, you will just have lines running down to list those all out. And that's the same for not only the participant one, but also the entity and the general as well. Other thoughts, comments, questions?
Is this coming out in October?
Yes, this will be in the October release. All the reports that were on that list will all be in the October release. When we talk a little bit about what's coming in 2012, there'll be some more reports. The team is not quite done with all the conversion that we want to do, so we still have a few more reports that'll be following in, specifically and most excitingly, efforts to outcomes reports, true efforts to outcomes reports that we're really excited to share with you all. Other thoughts, questions? No? Okay. So I know I've given a couple of these examples already, but we did want to talk very quickly, especially for some of the people that might be newer to results. We've been talking about some of these easy edits that you can make. We just did a quick list of maybe about 9 or 10 things that you could be doing to change these reports. So simple things like we were seeing sections in there. So I see a site name, and then I see a program name, and then I see a person name. If you wanted to add or remove sections, which changes the way your data is cut in any of your totals or your calculations, your formulas, you can add or remove sections as you would like to adjust those totals to map to what you might be interested in. So for example, maybe I love everything about that efforts report, but I want a section by a program group as opposed to a single program. You could pull out program, put in program group, done. Custom alerts. We're going to look at some customer reports right now, and several of them have done some really amazing things with alerts, or allowing you to highlight data in a particular way depending on what your program's targets or expectations are. So we don't put any alerts into the majority of our reports because everybody has different standards. But you could very easily add alerts to highlight numbers in different colors, different text, however you would like, so that you can have it correspond to what your program is interested in looking at. Changing sorting, pretty easy. If I want to see something in alphabetical order or by most active or from oldest to newest or vice versa, all of those sorts of things can be changed based on the standard things that we set in. Simple filters and input controls. We're going to see some of our customers using these very effectively already. These allow your users to manipulate the data once they run the report. So I might run something for all my programs, and then I can add in a simple filter that allows me to, once the data is run, filter to one program, something like that. Changing your types of charts. We went with pie charts in a lot of places. If you like bar, change it up. If you're particularly committed to line graphs, go ahead. It's very easy to change those types of things in the reports. This one it could start as easy. Some of you also know this could get a little more difficult when you add in data into your queries. You could pull in additional information. It might be as simple as I want to add another column to show another piece of information. Could be more complicated in that I want to actually adjust a calculation. My third one down there, I pull in another piece of data and you calculated something, or our standard report calculates something some way, and you want to change up the settings on that calculation. Add or removing prompts. All of ours come with standard prompts. Some are optional, some are required. If they don't meet what you would like, save the report and set your own. And then last, but certainly not least, I know a lot of people like to be able to add on their own logo, their own color scheme, so that when they send in a report, their funders know that it's from them. Pretty simple to add in a picture of your organization's logo onto the reports. Yes, Forrest.
So you're using as you're converting traditional standard reports to ETO results, are you using those prompts to kind of combine reports? Because in some cases, you have some of the versions of standard reports that are really the same report, it's just a change in focus on the data, where that could happen with a prompt. If you have one report that's consistent, which is also another problem in the report.
Yes. So Forrest's question, just in case anybody couldn't hear him, was whether we're using prompts as a way to make what is many reports in Crystal right now into one. And that's actually a perfect example. I'm going to go with, which hopefully be a familiar example to everybody, demographics reports. I don't know if anybody's ever bothered to count. I have. There are 34 standard demographics reports in the software. There's not much difference between them often except how they're cutting the data by site, by program, active people, enrolled people, dismissed people. It's just all different slices of the data, but it's still essentially the same data set. It's just how you're looking at it. So the reports use a combination of prompts, sometimes different tabs in the report. So our new demographic report actually has a tab for active, a tab for enrolled, and a tab for dismissed, but it's all in one report. You get it by running one report as opposed to 3. But the prompts are used often a lot to get to those different cuts so that you could do exactly that. That's a great point. Other thoughts, questions? No? Okay. All right. So real quick before we go into some customer work, I do want to throw some attention to a few of the other enhancements and work that we've done on results. First and foremost here we have automated reports or report scheduling, which will be coming out in the October release that we've been talking about a lot during this conference. Essentially what it allows you to do is allows you to set up a report and have it actually either be delivered to one of your users' business objects inbox or even better in an email as an attachment and then send it off. You can do in multiple different formats. You could send it as a Webby document, as an Excel spreadsheet, as a PDF file. And there are a couple of reasons that that has some advantages. Convenience. I'm sure we can all think of, an executive director who doesn't want to get in the software to run a report. Instead, you go in, schedule it. It shows up in their inbox as an attachment. Done. Performance. A couple of our reports, especially those that are created by some of our customers that are larger and grabbing a lot of data, can take a little bit longer to run. So instead of sitting there and watching that spinning icon that we all love so much, this allows you to schedule it, and then it can run while you don't have to sit there and watch it, and it'll deliver the results to you once it's done. Special security rules. So right now when you interact with results, who you are in the software, if I'm a staff person, that impacts what I can see in results. When I'm an enterprise manager, that impacts what I can see in results. So this allows us to get around situations where we hear people say, I want to be able to send enterprise-wide data to my staff because it's an agency report that they should all be looking at and taking advantage of. Now you can run it as an enterprise manager and send out this information, actually providing more data than they would see if they ran it themselves. And then last but certainly not least, report scheduling takes a snapshot in time. So I'm sort of taking pictures of moments in time. And then when you use those pictures, it allows you to start to do longitudinal analysis. If you want someone to be extremely excited about this, go see Dave Butts. Just say the words longitudinal analysis to him, and he'll jump up super excited. I'm trying to capture some of his enthusiasm here. But this is really a lot of what we're trying to get to. So not just am I impacting the change, am I seeing the change that I want in this moment, but as I compare it over time, as I look at these snapshots over the course of months, years, am I continuing to see not only the change I want, but better change, more change?
You had a question over here?
Oh, yes. Yeah, Dan.
Does the automated report require exchange for the email?
No, it does not. Actually, it allows you to type in any email address that you want. So you could send it to Gmail accounts if you're using things like that. Yes. And Jill?
So my question is that you're saying that the longitudinal study, so the schedule reports are like, you're saying those snapshots you could actually track. They're like static reports. Why don't you run it? It's a static report that just snaps up.
Yes. So yeah, so what the biggest difference, and this also could be a great thing for people to think about from a security standpoint, is that when you send it, the report's not refreshable. So whoever gets it is getting that moment in time. That's all they can see. It's not like opening up a report and running it and refreshing it. So it does capture this moment, and then you can put those moments next to one another.
Where do they live? On the dashboard?
It depends on where you send it. So so in your reporting dashboard, you could actually see a history of all the instances that you've ever scheduled. They could be in your inbox in the form of emails, or in your business objects inbox, wherever you'd like to house them.
Okay, so I can run a report and send it to people and they can just very happily see.
Very happily see it and say, Jill, this is awesome. Thank you. Yes. Yes.
Okay, I have another question.
Sure.
Oh, I just forgot it. Never mind.
Okay. Yes.
So if staff makes edits, so when a staff makes a report, and say it was, I ran this report in August, and they made edits that affected the data in August, when I read it in October though, it's not gonna change that, and I can see them side by side and see the difference.
Yes.
Correct. Correct. Yes.
With the automated reports that are performance, with those larger data sets, are you still limited to a timeout period?
So that is a great question. So throttling rules or timeouts do still apply. So if something is still timing out, if you hit that magic 10-minute mark that we all love, those rules will still apply. It's more to not have to sit if the report does run but may take a little bit longer. It's to not have to sit and wait through that.
The server is not as weighed down when they
Correct.
run in the middle of the night, though. So if your 10 minutes in the middle of the day may not be the same as your 10 minutes.
So you're actually able to say, I want to run it at this point in time, and you could try to game that a little bit to see if you could get a report to come through that might not be working out so well right now. Forrest, did you have some? Yes, yes. That's a great thing to remember. You know, middle of the day, you all are trying to do the exact same things. So, yes, Jill.
Sorry, scheduling reports over reporting, just reporting on timeout.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what we were just saying. So the same rules about how long the report can run before it times out still apply in scheduling.
If it times out, you have to schedule a report.
It'll tell you. You'll see a history in your reporting dashboard of which ones have been successful, which ones have failed, and the reason why.
So I have my reporting dashboard right now to send out.
Yeah, and you can actually, if it fails, you can click and see why. Was it because it timed out? Was it because there was some sort of server problem? Whatever it was. Exactly. Other questions? No? Okay. Dashboard reports. Hopefully everybody has seen this. I should have grabbed a screenshot, but I didn't. But we do have a reports part that can now go in any of our dashboards. And you can actually pick a report and have it live in a little part on your dashboard. And when you bring up your dashboard, it will refresh and show you new data when you hit that. One second. We actually have the ability that you can design a report so that if you put it on the participant dashboard and it prompts for a participant ID, when you hit that person's, when you go to Abby's dashboard, the report's not only going to run, but it's going to run for Abby. It's going to see that I'm on her particular dashboard and run for that information. So it really puts data right in front of your users on hopefully a space that they're using as their main navigational launch point. So that's pretty exciting. Did you have a?
I did. For that, this has already been released. Right?
Yes, reporting dashboards did come out. The report part came out this year, so this is just.
Have you all considered doing it in such a way that a report title could be selected instead of automatically populating and refreshing?
There's a request for that in. If you contact customer support, we can attach you to the request.
Yeah. So that's just in case anybody didn't hear, it was right now you have to set the part and say I always want report A to run. She's requesting if instead you could hit a part and say I want this report this time instead. Other thoughts, questions? No? Okay. Let's go. A couple of other things. I'm going to do once again a plug for our ETO Results trainings. We've developed a pretty good range of trainings right now that should hopefully be able to meet most people where they're at. If this is your first introduction to results today and you're still getting your feet wet, first thing I'd recommend is every single week we do a basic introduction. It's an hour. It's free. You just come, we show some examples, we talk about a lot of the possibilities with results. It'll start to let you use your imagination about what might work for you and your agency. If you decide this is a go, we have 2 orientations. One is the first, you have to take this one first, or a basic orientation. It's 8 hours, offered once a month. Then we also have an advanced orientation that right now we're offering bi-monthly. If we get more interest in offering it more frequently, we'll move it up to monthly. But both of these are done in web format using GoToMeeting. They have set curriculums, but they all have hands-on examples as you go through. We've learned how to create a formula. Now everybody take 10 minutes and try to do this particular thing.
I'd like to add that for the advanced training, you also have to pass a quiz in order to move on to that. So it sort of guarantees that everybody that's in the more advanced session is at like a general level of knowledge so that there's not as much time like reteaching.
Right. And actually, I should also point out that for the orientation, and I'm pretty sure, Emily, you can wave at me frantically if this is not true for the advanced, but the orientation, we do allow you to take it twice. So you pay, and she's saying it's true for the advanced as well. So you pay one time, and let's say you go and you feel like you could really use to hear the information again, you don't have to pay to take it a second time.
And if you take the first one, you get the knowledge, you pass the quiz. The second, the advanced training is actually part of that. So
There you go.
you only pay once for both.
And then if you complete all of these and you still either feel like you need more help or more guidance, or you just are trying some more advanced things and want some one-on-one time, we have 2 different professional services offerings, one for 8 hours, one for 24 hours. There's one-on-one time with a professional services representative. We don't guarantee the completion of any report out of this, but it is time for you to come and say, here are my questions, here's what I want to work on, and it's just you. So the contents of those hours is really defined by you all, as opposed to by us. And last but not least, we have been doing ongoing enhancements to our standard universes. This is almost, should go without saying, this is going to be an ongoing process for us, but we did a lot of advancements to our standard universes as part of these new standard reports that we came up with. So we're continually adding more data to them, trying to get them to run faster. Yes, Forrest?
Just for those people who are new to ETO Results, how can we find what the universe is?
So I'm gonna say go to the training, because we could start ourselves into a little bit of a space. Essentially, to quickly answer, a universe is the data set that you're going to be working from. So we have a standard participant universe that houses all of your participant data. We have a standard entity universe that houses all your entity data, so on and so forth. You can merge those universes together. It makes you feel very much like you have powers that you shouldn't have. So yes, but
It's like your subject in the query wizard.
Yes, it is like your subject in the query wizard. Other thoughts? Yes, Alyssa.
Can I get certified in ETO Results?
Yes, you can get certified in ETO Results. What an excellent question. We do have a certification exam, just like you would become certified as a site administrator. Do we know how many people we have certified at this point?
We have Odile and we have Andrew.
There we go. Yes. And actually, we're going to be seeing here in about 30 seconds examples of Odile and Andrew's work. So it is the same process where you'd have to take a test, and there's a written portion and a practical portion, much like you have to do for the site administrator exam. Other thoughts? No? Okay. All right, so the next chunk of things that we want to step into is giving you guys some examples of your colleagues, other organizations, and how they're using results. We tried to pick a range of reports, some that are a little more simple, some that are a little more complex. I want to put out the warning that if you're new to results, there might be 1 or 2 examples that we go into that might make you pass a little bit over your head or make you feel a little bit panicked. Don't worry. We're just trying to give you a taste of what is possible if you really dig in and use this tool well. So our first example comes from Omni, and the report name is called the Demographics by Point of Service report. What this does is this is probably this is more towards the simple end that we're going to talk about, but it's an unduplicated count of demographic responses, so much like you get out of a standard demographic report. But what they made a little bit different is they're trying to use it to be able to say, how do our demographics change between points of service? So am I seeing people get a particular service based on their demographic? We chose to pull out this report because this report is a great example of using simple filters to be able to give your users a nice big report and then let them manipulate it as they would like once it's already run. For all of these, I tried to give everybody a sense of how long it took this report to be built, so you all can get an idea of what it takes to get involved with this. This particular report was built by an internal programmer at Omni. It took about 15 hours total, 10 to build, 5 to test. It's probably a little longer than what many of you might experience because they have an extremely large data set that they're working with. So there was a lot of validation that needed to go on. They had some issues with timing out at first that we had to help them with. But they did also take the orientation and use the aids from business objects as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. So the first screenshot that you're seeing here towards the upper left is the report just as you run it. I picked parameters for a date range and ran it, and it gives me for each demographic. So I see gender, then I see ethnicity, I see a count of participant site identifiers, and then I see a percentage. So what we're also seeing here is that particular count is actually a distinct count. So if the same person is in this more than once, they're actually only being counted once. One of the differences that you can make in either our standard reports, if you want to change how we've calculated that, or your own. But then what we see up at the top are what we call simple filters. And they have a simple filter for program name and for point of service. You can use these together, you could use them separately. But what this allows their users to do is once they've run the report, say, I want to look at this particular program and or this particular point of service, and now change my data to be able to reflect that. And the change is very quick. So we see gender goes from female being about 57% to now in this particular program and point of service is actually about 73%. And so this gives their users a lot of control over what they're looking at in this particular report. It's not terribly complicated, but is incredibly effective. Do I have questions on this report at all? No? Okay. Let's go ahead and go on to the next one.
So the next report we're going to look at was built by Motion Picture and Television Fund, so by Odile Swift. And this is a staff management report, and it's actually a conversion from an old Crystal report that we had built for them. And rather than paying for enhancements, Odile decided to dig in and rebuild it. And basically, the report uses different tabs in order to cut your data, which is a really common way to go about working with different data sets. So one cut is by department, one is by months in the year, one's by contact location method, that sort of thing. And then the report is run on a quarterly basis, and it's used to assess how productive the staff are. So what projects are they working on with which participants, and how are they doing? What kind of changes are made? So the report was built over the course of several months, and it probably took a lot longer to build than it would take now, because Odile was basically teaching herself the tool while building this report. So with her knowledge now, it would probably take her about 4 hours. So during the time that she was working on the report, she took the orientation twice, she was using the help manual, and she was going into the online community to work with other members of our team, not just internal, but other customers for assistance. And then she also called customer support and had a number of advanced support sessions as well. So if we can take a look at the report. So you can see all along the side, you have the names of the users. And then along the top, you have the years that they were broken out. And then the information that's in here is coming from effort qualifiers, if I remember correctly. So these are summing up amounts of disbursements based on different unions that participants are in. And then this is a total that is a lifetime total. So most of the participants that are served by MPTV are served throughout a number of years. So it's not like a one-year program or something. It's sort of an indefinite thing, so you can see a total over time. Good?
I understand where most of the data comes from, but the years, is that something that would be an add-in that you would add into a point of service or assessment, or is that something you add in for your report?
So you can convert dates to just look at just the year that they were recorded in. So one of the options is like a 2-year function. And so you're just cutting out the year portion to see when they were dispersed. So that's based on date of contact.
And there's a lot of fun things you can do with dates in terms of that. We're actually going to see another example of manipulating dates in a cool way like that. I have another one for you.
Okay, so this is another tab in the report. So we're, again, looking at the same data, but this is based on point of service up here.
Well, these are actually, I'm sorry, Jamie, these are cuts by department, those two things. The two different charts.
The two charts are cut by department?
Yes.
Okay. Now I'm a little confused. Okay.
You're thinking of one of the later tabs. So this particular tab, so the first tab is all the staff all together, and we're looking at them in one big running row. This one takes and cuts it by their department.
Okay. Okay, which is an entity attribute?
I believe so.
Yeah, okay. So it's the same data but cut a different way. And then you're also looking at a bar graph. So some of you may be familiar with the staff efforts crystal report, and you have that crystal report with it's very difficult to read along the side. That's what this is based on. So it's telling you by year how much was spent by each person in here.
So Abigail does a great job in this particular tab. The reason I like this one is that you see several different types of graphs. You're not limited. She manipulated data in several different ways to get multiple different graphs.
Okay, and so this is looking at just the current year, and it's broken down by month. And so same way, using the 2 year, you can use 2 month, and it'll pull out just the month that's in there, and then you have to do another type of cut in order to get it to display in the actual month order at the top. But so you're just, again, cutting the data by the month and then totaling it at the end. And it's also by staff person.
It's by staff person, and what I liked about this one as well is that instead of going alphabetical in her sort here, she sorted by the most active staff. So quickly when supervisors look at this, they're seeing their most productive staff at the top. They can look at this, month to month. I should be seeing some consistency that allows them to get a sense of whether their staff are on target or not. I think this is the last screenshot. Nope, we have 2 more of Odil's report.
Okay, so this is cut by contact location method and month. So again, it's just the same breakout of information, but looked at in a different way. And then this shows the change over time by the number of participants that have had efforts recorded throughout this time. Okay.
So this particular one is for each individual staff. Odile used another simple filter up at the top in that red box, so she can run this and then change the staff person that she's looking at. And for each month, she sees not only the number of clients that they've worked with, but the number of efforts that they've recorded, and she charts both of them there, so that her staff can see that in easy relation to one another. Odile, if I remember correctly, I believe you all use this as part of your annual evaluation as well. Yes. So supervisors are pulling this out, reviewing this with their staff on a regular basis, and actually using this to inform their annual reviews. Any questions on this report? Yes?
What does it take to run on the screen?
It depends. Odile, I imagine it depends. This one's I was going to say, when I ran this to take screenshots, it was pretty quick. And the amount of time any report takes to run often depends on the amount of data that you ask for it.
And the areas of the software. So this is all pulling from efforts. If you were to add assessment data, it would probably
slow it down a little bit and things like that. So one of the things we try to talk about in the trainings are smart ways to report, how to not bog down your reports too much, breaking them out, things like that. Other questions? No? Okay. Okay, we're going to keep going then. Next example we have comes from Dan Evans at Lutheran Community Services Northwest. This particular report is called the Birthday List for the RICP children. This is a foster care program that they run. So the essential need here was that their staff wanted to be able to say, I need to see children with birthdays in this month. And then in addition to that, they were looking for children who were approaching particular ages, specifically 18 and 21. Because at those particular ages, they need to be able to do things with them, register them for service, things like that. So the staff, those were their 2 wants, and that's where Dan really leapt from this from. And I get really excited about this particular example just because I would have never thought of it, and I love seeing things that I would have never thought of. So what is particularly cool about this report is that it uses a workaround to actually make it look like it's prompting for something that is not in our universes. So when you actually prompt a report, you have to pick from things that exist in our universe, because when you say, I want to see these things, it goes out and it searches for those. So you can't arbitrarily prompt for data because it has nothing to look for. So Dan did a pretty cool little workaround to make it look like you're prompting for something that's not in the universe when you actually are. So before I show you this, it took Dan about 4 or 5 hours to build this. He was experimenting as he went through. This is a little bit of a complex report in terms of its design underneath. So that's where most of that time went. He did take the orientation, was a big user of those business objects aids that you can get throughout as you're working on it. He also has a nice advantage of having some background in Crystal, which helps. But go ahead and advance for us. So I'm going to try to walk everybody through this. So like I said, it's not possible to use prompts to collect arbitrary data. So if it doesn't exist in the set of data that you're looking at, you can't prompt for it. It doesn't know what you're looking for. So Dan knew he wanted to be able to look for, he wanted to prompt for a particular age and birthdays in a particular month. So what he did is he said, okay, I want to be able to put in 2 numbers. And so he actually used things, sum of numeric value and count of participants type identifier, that are going to actually return numbers. Are they the numbers that Dan wants? No, but fortunately he doesn't care. He just wants a spot to be able to put in numbers. So he said, all right, I want to get real numbers, and he used OR logic, which is something we go over in the orientation, to essentially avoid filtering out anybody. He said anybody that is equal to or greater than or equal to and less than. So we're not filtering out anyone using OR logic here. He then used the ability to actually change what your prompts read to your end users to make the end users believe that they were prompting for birth month and a target age. So to them, nothing has changed. They're getting exactly what they wanted. Behind the scenes, he's actually prompting just for some numbers, and then he's using one of the functions called user response to actually change that into what he wanted. So he said, when someone enters 3 there, I want to change that into what is their birth month. Did a conversion thing here. Same with target age. Once someone enters in 18, I want to change that into another measure, and then he uses that measure and alert to be able to turn red the people that are 18. If your head hurts right now, don't worry, mine did as well the first time I saw this. I had to walk through it a couple of times to figure out what was happening. But essentially, he found a very neat little way to make his end users have a seamless experience and put all of the effort in actually getting that information behind the scenes, which is what I particularly love about this. Jaime, go ahead and advance for me. So what this turns back is just a nice little simple list of kids that have birthdays in the month that he selected, and because he uses the variable that corresponds to whatever they typed in that prompt, because he uses that in the alert, meaning the thing that turns this red depending on what conditions you set on it, he now gets something that comes back and says, here's the people that have the birthday in that month, and because you typed in 18, I'm now highlighting that one person as being in the target age that you selected. So you see a little example of his alert that he set up here. This is pretty advanced stuff, but the reason we wanted to show you guys this is because we want to give you a taste of what's possible if you're creative and if you're willing to experiment around in the software. Yes?
That seems like a simple function. Why would it take so many workarounds?
Part of it is sure. Part of it is so we could have prompted for date of birth and that sort of thing. That's something that is in our universe. You could pull back, absolutely. This is a combination of the way that they wanted to be able to prompt the report and what is in our universe. So we're continuing to add to all of our universes. So anytime that there isn't something you might be looking for, or anytime you're going to manipulate the data, you might need to go in a little bit more complex of a direction. If they could have built this report much more simple in terms of, I'm just going to enter a range for date of birth and have that turn back. This was responding very much to how the users wanted to be able to prompt the information.
Age on next birthday isn't in the universe.
Yes. Oh, okay. Thank you, Alyssa. That's a great example. So this right here, actually, he created that example. So we do have age in our universe. So if you wanted to say, show me name and the person's age, simple query that you could run right away. Age on next birthday is something he actually had to create and say, take their age, add 1. Now I have this new variable of age on your next birthday. So we couldn't actually prompt for that because that particular thing does not exist in our universe. Dan.
Just the first question. One of the issues I struggled with is trying to find all the birthdays in March. I didn't care what year they were born, right? And that is, unless someone else can show me how, I couldn't find any way to get that out of the system other than this.
We actually found, because we were considering redoing the birthday list, which is one of the standard Crystal reports, and we couldn't find an easy way to do it. So we decided to leave it in Crystal because there are no bugs with it.
We may be borrowing your method now.
Yeah. But yeah, so you're very right that it's somewhat, because we don't offer the month, the birth month in the universe, we would have to make an enhancement for that in order to do it. So this is a smart way around it.
And that is an example of enhancement that's not saying that we won't do that maybe at some point. We're trying to, we get lots of requests for enhancements. We always try to think about which ones are going to be the best ones for us to focus our time on. It's just in the meantime, this is a way to get around that. Other questions about this? Sorry, the poll is blocking my view. No? Okay, great.
Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at is a report from Southwest Key. So this is basically a giant dashboard report, and I say giant because it is quite large. So every area of service that's delivered from Southwest Key is covered in this report. So the first page of the report is an overview, a high-level overview of the service that's been delivered. And then in here you have the scores that are on their monthly reports that their managers look at to manage the performance of all of their programs. So depending on what the program measure is, it could be coming from point of service, it could be coming from assessments, it could be coming from referrals. And these are just open names that were typed in as the program measure. And then you have whether or not, so you have what the actual score is based on their program measures. So each one of these scores is determined by a number of calculations based on the area of the software that the information is recorded. And then next to that, you have the target. And so if the actual matches the target, it will be highlighted. So this is highlighted in green because it exceeds the target here. And then the data source tells you where in the software the information is coming from.
A little more background on how Jill's organization uses this particular report. So these are all their key performance indicators and compliance. So it's really critical that they're keeping on top of these things all the time. So her program directors run this at least monthly, and they're checking in and they're looking at those actuals and targets. If they're seeing red, they know they have a problem that they need to be taking action on pretty immediately. And they discuss this with their staff. How can we change this? How can we work with this to actually hit our target? On top of that, it's run quarterly by their regional directors, who then share that information up to their VP. And they actually use this at their quarterly, the quarterly assurance meeting. Am I getting that right? Yes. And so this is where quality, they both start with a Q. It's that point in the day. The quality assurance meeting. So they actually use this to generate action plans. If they're missing targets, they've said these are the things that we need to be hitting. If we're not in green, we need to have an action plan to fix that problem. So they are proactively using this information to change what they're doing at a service level to make sure that they're hitting the things that they've defined as important for their program. Sorry, let me move forward here. This is just a screenshot of Jill. One of my favorite things about what Jill did in this report is she is a big believer in users want to be able to validate what they're looking at. So they don't just want a number to appear somewhere and not know where it came from. So Jill's great in this report about providing proof in a lot of places or providing information. I took a screenshot of this glossary because it just provides, it's actually the same thing from the previous tab, but it actually provides detail on those calculations that Jaime was talking about. Gives a little paragraph that says this is pulling from this outcome or this assessment. It's manipulating the data in this way. So she's really good in this report about providing that background information so that it's right there in front of the users as they're working with it. Sorry, Jaime, go ahead.
And then in here is sort of graphs based on the participants that were pulled into the report. So over here it's broken out by different demographics. And then if they were dismissed from the program, the people, so you have a detailed list of people, and then their start date, end date, the number of days that they were in the program. And this corresponds with the people that were in here based on their reason for dismissal. And sorry, I'm having trouble
It's a little
reading
small.
this.
Yeah.
So this is just high level information. So your averages of so this average corresponds to that over there. And
so Jill included this a lot because as she was trying to put as many things into a report so that the users could run it and have everything that they needed in one thing. I don't want to have to run 6 reports to get what I'd really like to be able to see in one. So actually, we have a couple more screenshots on Jill's. I didn't put every page because hers is quite extensive. But this is a sort of a combination of a couple things around demographics. That as they're looking at these compliance things, they often talk about demographics and how things are coming in, dismissals, what are reasons people are moving in and out. So this was provided in the report to put everything in one nice continuous stream of thought as they're going through this report. I put several things here. I can. So this is there are two tabs that Jill goes at here, and I wrote accountability and accountability, and it should be accountability and attendance. I apologize on that, Jill. So this is actually the 2 tabs look really similar. And what you see is the first tab is showing you the high level information. And then what she takes that to is on the next tab, she's giving you those details. Once again, that's my favorite thing about this report, is that she doesn't ask the users to believe her. She shows that where this data is coming from and how she's manipulating it to get this exact information. So there's a lot of text included in her report that's very specific to Southwest Keys, which makes it very easy for their users to digest and understand. So when they see this overall accountability range is at 82.5, they can actually look at the details and see how they got there. And she does that same thing on the attended details tab, which looks very similar, the 2 tabs for that, but has slightly different information.
Again,
yeah.
this is just
So this is again a pull out of some of the outcomes that they're going for. The reason I pulled this particular one out is that Jill very bravely took on attempting to do her own hyperlinks, which you see happening in a lot of our standard reports, in part because they are a bit more difficult to take on. It's definitely advanced work, not something we're going to cover in the orientation, but I mostly threw this out there so that everybody can see it is actively being used. So you can hyperlink to other reports so that you can tie multiple reports together, essentially.
And the reason that we initially started working on this with Jill is because, as Amy mentioned earlier, just questioned, it takes a lot of time to pull back a lot of data, and this is a way to curb the amount of time that your report runs. Because if you're pulling a more narrow data set, then if you just link out to another data set, it'll save you a lot of time in running the report, and it's less likely to time out and return just partial results for you.
They're also often really cool standalone reports too.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So this report took Jill several months. Lots of quality one-on-one time with me as well. It was fun. Yeah, it was good times. And this is, this was more that she's continued. This has been a continual building process for her. As she learns new things, she wants to add new things and that sort of thing. There weren't hyperlinks when we originally started, and then she learned how to do that. So she's continually, the report's growing with her skills, which is really exciting to see. Questions about this report? No? Okay. All right, so our last example of today is from Congresso, built by Andrew, who's hiding over here somewhere. This particular report is called the PCM Advanced Caseflow Report. That stands for Primary Case Management. So this really aids in their way of doing case manager supervision. So their supervisors all have an entity assessment that they have to fill out on a regular basis. They essentially now run this report to inform what they're filling out on that assessment. It also helps their case managers as they're doing primary case management. They're once again looking at compliance standards, and it allows them to proactively work with their clients. We're going to see how they're using alerts to draw highlights to where they need to be focusing attention because something is not happening that should be happening, something like this. Andrew actually built a unique version of this report because each of the programs had slightly different guidelines or rules that their particular program needed to follow. So he just made copies of the report and was able to adjust each one so that each program would have a report that responds to their particular setup and their particular rules. Once again, built this over a course of a couple months. It's very similar to Jill, kept adding on to it as he was learning. Collectively, he estimates about a week's worth of work, and you'll see that this report is pretty complex when we move on to it, but he did use the orientation, help manual, the aids from business objects. We hear a lot of good things from our users about being able to actually use that function that's built in there and learn more about the things that are there. So go ahead. So the first is the overview report tab. Just trying to give you a little information before we go and look at it. So he's pulling from a case manager assignment that's done as a demographic. He's filtering out for only heads of households because that's what they wanted to see in this particular report. Coolest thing about this particular report is probably the alerts that he's using. We're going to see a couple of different colors indicating different things. Gray is a dismissed participant. Red means there's a particular issue, the specific issue. Yellow highlights the whole row so that you can easily, when you look at it, you'll see your eye immediately goes to areas that they're problems or people that there are problems. Really focuses in on what they are paying attention to. What I thought was super cool about this when Andrew was walking me through this was these alerts are actually complex enough to respond to changes in their program standards. So as of the beginning of this year, they had a change in how often a particular assessment needed to be taken. So these alerts do really interesting things in terms of, I'm going to look at an enrollment date to decide whether this should be red or whether you should be fined based on when you actually became involved with the program. So the report's actually built to respond to their internal policies changing over the course of time. We're also going to see a concerns addressed calculation, pulls from an assessment where you constantly say, what are my concerns? At what stage are they at? Are they still open? Are they being maintained? Are they being resolved? And then they actually have a calculation that shows those two things right next to one another. You can go ahead and advance forward. So this is the overview tab. A lot of the things that I just talked about. We have a cut here by each of the case managers that I want to see. I then can go in, and if you look up at the top, we actually have some simple filters as well. I could slice this by a demographic value. I could look at a particular person. I have these great alerts that are doing a whole bunch of different things. If I'm seeing gray, I know that person is dismissed. If I'm seeing yellow, something is off with that record, so my eye is immediately being drawn to that. And then we actually have the red alerts that are being used to say, here is where your particular problem or problems with this client are happening. This allows the case manager to be able to look at this and immediately identify where they'd need to take action. Then over to the side here, that's the concerns address calculation that I started talking about. So the number to the outside, to the right, is the total number of concerns that were checked off. They have an assessment. I think it's about 9 or so concerns, something like that, Andrew. And they check off, and I have these 3, so it pulls that. And then it looks and says, okay, what of these 3 have been resolved? And puts that next to it. So I can see 0 out of 3, 1 out of 3. Gives a really good understanding right off the bat about how successful we're being with this particular client. You can go ahead and advance forward for me. There's a second tab to this particular report, which is the values report tab. So they record an outcome at every single interaction. And so this tab pulls from the very first one and the most recent so that they can see change. And then Andrew actually even pulled in little arrows that he uses to say positive, neutral, or negative change. So it's a really nice visual indication of whether someone's going the direction that you would like them to go. It also pulls things from that progress check assessment. So once again, you can see the status of all those concerns. So this is giving a bit more details on the overarching picture that we saw on the first. And what I love about this particular report as well is that Andrew told me that they find results most helpful when they're trying to give their staff information in an easily digestible way. And this report is a great example of that. He took all the work and put in this really clean, easy to understand format. Go ahead. So this is the PCM values here. So we have it broken out by case manager again, and now we're seeing each individual person come in. So we have our first and our last, and then we have these indicators that say, am I improving between my first and my last value? Am I staying the same? Once again, we have highlights around these progress checks. So these are the areas that you might have concerns in, and allows you to say, where did I have concerns? What's the status of that concern? Am I maintaining? Has it been resolved? Is it still in pending status, and therefore it's red? Is it still a concern that we need to take advantage of? They use alerts really well throughout all of these reports, anywhere that they want to draw your attention. So I have a dismissal reason for goals not obtained and the client was still terminated. We want to draw attention to that, so an alert was used on that particular front as well. This person doesn't have any progress checks, so that's in yellow. So it uses the same consistent sort of alert pattern, but in a different way on each tab. Questions on this particular report? No questions? Okay. All right, so how are we doing on time? Awesome. So I want to talk very quickly and then open up for questions from the group. I want to talk very quickly about what you can expect to come down the pipe for results in 2012. So like I mentioned earlier, that conversion that we're doing of standard reports, trying to go from a lot of crystal reports that aren't very flexible to a smaller number of results reports that are flexible. We're still going to be working on that. We have about 9 more standard reports that we're working on, 3 efforts to outcomes, true ETO reports that we're working on. The results team, our next major task is to start looking at performance and speed, areas that we can help the universes run quicker. We're going to be pulling in Dave on this. We're going to be pulling in Craig, who designed our universes on this. Really trying to get an understanding of how we can improve some of the speed and some of the sluggishness that we see when we use certain areas in the universes, things like that. We're going to take a look at the standard measures that we offer in our universes, see if there's areas that we can add more measures so that reports might run faster. So this is an ongoing pursuit for us, is to really improve the speed of these reports. Continued enhancement to standard universes, well, to all the universes, either things that come up as we're designing these reports, customer requests that we get as they're working on reports. Continued enhancements to ETO analytics, which you all saw a little preview of at lunch. As we finally put that out in front of everyone and start to get feedback on where it works well, where there are suggestions for changes or improvements, we'll be continuing to feed all of that through the team and take action on those. And then we are going to continue to work on our online community as well. We really, as we get more and more users, we want that to be a space that is for you all. That you go and share information with one another, share tricks, share examples, ask questions, get answers from other users or from us. So we really like that to be a space that is for your benefit. I'm going to stop talking now finally and let you all talk. Are there questions of any nature? If we happen to not get to all of them, or if they're ones that you think maybe you don't want to ask in this format because they might have a longer answer, please feel free to write them down and we can approach them later, but otherwise, go ahead. Yes?
The website is
once we actually have it set up, I'm sure we'll be able to locate it off of our main socialsolutions.com website. None of the presentations are actually up yet, though. They will be after, off of socialsolutions.com. Other questions? No questions? Okay. If there are no questions, then everybody gets to leave 10 minutes early. Thank you so much.